Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 2 of season 6, Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Starring Bryan Cranston, no less, which was great to see.
Yeah, and written by Vince Gilligan, who created Breaking Bad. So yeah, very. I'm calling it. Without X-Files, no Breaking Bad. Plain and simple.
I think that's fair.
Certainly not the Breaking Bad that we got anyway. I think it all came together because of the X-Files. So
yeah,
I'm sticking to that. But the question is it a good episode? And if it is a good episode, just how good is it? So, Graham, just how good do you think this might be according to IMDb users? Out of 217 episodes, where does this rank?
Oh, now there's a great deal of thought and formula goes into this, Brian, where I magically just pull a number out of thin air. Again, I'm going to go for 37.
Ooh, what was it you went for with the beginning? Did you say
37?
No, what was it? I thought you said 34 for the beginning, but yeah, Drive is actually 34.
Wow.
Yeah, so
close.
Slightly higher. Not to completely give the game away, but I'm actually surprised at how low that is. I thought it would be a little bit higher, to be honest.
No, well,
but that's all right.
So we know where you stand.
Yeah, certainly know where I stand. When I told you last episode where I stand on this one, I think it's a great episode. I'm not afraid to say it. So we open up on a news report of a car chase, which for anyone who lived around the time that this episode actually aired, was very reminiscent of the whole O.J. Simpson on the run kind of. You look at that footage. It feels like that kind of footage. I think they do a really good job here of just how they do the news broadcast, and some really great shots as well of helicopters chasing the car, coming around hills. Again, we said last episode, very cinematic, very kind of wow. They're going all out with the show at this point. Great job from Bill Rowe on cinematography duty. So yeah, we're straight into it. Car chase. There's a pregnant lady in the back seat. They hit a roadblock. Bryan Cranston's pulled out of the car. He's arrested, but he's shouting and screaming. He's for his wife. They help his wife out of the car and load her into the back seat of the police car, and then she starts bashing her head against the window. And then after a few moments of that, it's like scanners just splat on the screen. Her head's exploded. The news reporter's like, what the hell just happened? And then we go to opening credits. So yeah.
Sorry, you kind of surprised me a little bit there, Brian, because was she pregnant? Like his wife?
I don't know, was she? I felt like she was.
Didn't get that at all.
I think I just made that up. I think I just made that up. Yes. For some reason, I felt like she was pregnant. I think because of what she was wearing and the fact that I've seen so many movies where a pregnant lady's been in the backseat of a car and kind of because she was in that position, that position women get in when they're pregnant and they're like, oh, and because she's screaming. That's ain't that funny? Ain't that funny? Right. That's a prime example right there of how certain tropes that you've seen before just automatically build pictures in your head where you don't even question it until you just pointed that out. Then it didn't even occur to me she wasn't pregnant. It's just in my head she was pregnant. How weird is that?
Yeah, it just kind of caught me off guard when you said that. I was like, I didn't notice that at all. But other than that, it's a great setup. Now, when they said when it opens up and it says the car's like speeding down the road and they don't know about the driver, somebody else in the car. I, for some reason, thought it was going to be Mulder driving the car. I thought we were going to just dive straight into this one, like he's in the middle of this, but which would be a great opening for an episode.
So it'd been a while since I'd seen this, and I'm with you. I remember Mulder getting caught or getting taken by this guy. I remember them sharing the journey together. And in my head, I got a few things twisted round. And I literally thought that when the helicopter zooms in, when the news helicopter zooms in onto the back seat of the car, I thought we see a hand on the seat. And then in my head, Mulder's face suddenly looks out the window and it's like, oh, Mulder, what have you got yourself into? And then boom, that's opening credits. I completely forgot all this stuff with the wife. I can totally see why in your mind that's what you were expecting. Because I've seen it before and that's what I was expecting.
The blood pop on the window was pretty cool though. They start like
yeah, big time.
A good opening.
Yeah, very good. So Mulder and Scully knock on a man's door. He thinks they're Jehovah's Witnesses. He's ordered a massive amount of fertilizer for sugar beets. And then they go in and Mulder sees the news report. But this scene...
I love the farmer. I think he's great because this is a situation he's been through many times before and he's just like, oh, that's you guys. Yeah, come on in. And then just that, like we're looking for this info, and he's like, "Help me look."
He said, I love it. I love. I was like, is it no qualms about? He's like just ordering Scully about, basically, like, just have a look for me, will you? Just like help me out. It's like, this is your mess, pal. It's like you clearly live in a pigsty. But I love this guy. It's great, really great sequence, and just the whole crack about Jehovah's Witnesses and Mulder clearly being bored. I feel like it also feeds into, how they were on bomb squad duty in the film. And that whole sequence in the film kind of harkened to the whole Oklahoma City bombing thing. And that bomb, I believe, was done like through fertilizer and stuff. So it's a kind of like a little tenuous link between the movie and where they're at now is that they're still on that BS duty of this is the real grunt work kind of thing. But so Mulder sees the news report and of course he suddenly gets super excited. His paranormal ears prick up and he's like, oh baby, and he's like, so he goes outside and he just gets off the phone to say I'll be there soon. I'll be there. And Scully's like, oh, hell no. So what are you dragging me into now? And Mulder's like, no, we can be in and out in a day. Nobody has to know. And you know that when somebody says nobody has to know, that's when the entire world is going to know. So,
and it's like, I think it's a fun sequence because we've all been there. And like we've all done things that we knew we shouldn't do or didn't want to do, but just for some reason you play along with it. You're like, yeah, we'll probably get away with this one.
It just
never happens. You won't.
All sense and reason goes out the window. So Cranston is in a cell. So his name's Crump. So the character,
Mr. Crump.
Mr. Crump. So Cranston or Crump is in a cell. And his nose starts bleeding and he starts to hear a high-pitched noise, which instantly we're like, oh no, same thing's happening to him that was happening to his wife. So Mulder and Scully talk to the sheriff, who's this close to being douchebag sheriff. I think he pulls it back as the episode goes on, and we see, he's listening to Scully, he's taking heed of what they're saying. He pulls it back. But on their initial meet, I get the feeling that this is going to be douchebag sheriff of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, it turns
borderline.
out to be the case. But borderline. So Mulder and Scully talk to the sheriff about Crump, who had no priors. Scully goes to see the wife's body, while Mulder tracks Crump's car journey on a map. The sheriff doesn't know why Crump made a detour. So some great kind of detective work from Mulder here. He's not just willing to kind of go, all right, the guy was in a car chase, blah, blah. He wants to know, why was he in a car chase? Why was he on the run? What was his journey? Was he going somewhere? Where did he come from? And then he notices, well, he did an about turn and started heading in a different direction. Why did he do it? So he's full of questions, as any good agent should be. He's full of questions and he wants to get to the bottom of things. So it's a nice bit of detective work there from Mulder. So Scully goes to see the wife's body, and it's all exit wound. There doesn't seem to be any sign of a bullet going through one side and coming out the other. It's all it's like there's been an explosion inside her head, and it's blown out half her face. Scully starts to check it rather too closely, I think, and the more she digs in there, I don't know about you, but I was just like, no, something's going to come out here. I thought it was going to be.
I just thought it was a great effect. Like, it just looked so icky and realistic. It was fun. I thought something was going to appear as well.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a tapeworm, a bit like The Host. Like, because she kept on lifting that little flappy bit, and I was expecting like a worm to go.
It almost starts to vibrate. Like, it kind of shakes a little bit.
Yeah. So, and then it spits blood out at Scully, who's like, so Crump gets taken away in an ambulance, and Mulder follows. Inside the ambulance, Crump's condition suddenly improves, and it's then that he starts to look at the cop's gun. Which is obvious what's going to happen there. The ambulance begins to swerve, and then it stops, and Crump gets out just as Mulder pulls up behind it. And then Crump points the gun at Mulder, who sits there mentally saying, damn it, if he hadn't driven so close to the bloody ambulance.
I would have loved a little replay of the voiceover going, we'll just be in and out.
Yeah, with that like an echo, a little echo reverb behind it. Yeah. So Scully phones Mulder, and she's going into all this like
great sequence. Yeah,
really great. Mulder, this is what's happening. This is what's going on here. This is what I think's happening. We've got to do this. Lock Crump down. Make sure he doesn't like go anywhere. Got to put him in quarantine and this, that, and the other. And Mulder's like, yeah. That's going to be a little difficult, Scully. It's like, he's now in a car with Crump. He's got a gun at the back of his head, forcing him to drive. So he's been taken hostage. But yeah, really great payoff to Scully's kind of rant on the phone to him.
Yeah, and it's the way it's put together, the way it's edited and kind of set up is just wonderful, because it's got that, it's waiting for that payoff. Like, and it's one of those ones that we know it's coming. We know that Scully doesn't know it's coming. It's just like, and here we go.
So the sheriff calls Scully through the glass because she's now quarantined herself in the medical room in the morgue. She gives him instructions of what to do, basically taking charge, just bossing it like Scully does. But then another officer informs them that Crump is threatening to kill Mulder if they don't pull back. It's at that point that we see the car with police in hot pursuit, helicopter flying overhead. Really cinematic stuff. Great little like road chase kind of thing. It just looks cinematic. Looks like something from like a film like The Hitcher or something like that. And the police cars just suddenly they pull back. So we know they've been radioed. We know that they've been contacted. We know that Scully has made the choice to tell them to pull back without the need to actually see her doing it, which, again, great writing. Show, don't tell.
But I also say as well, just the way in which they divide the characters in this episode, but they do it in such a practical and realistic way. There's a reason why Scully is where she is, and where Mulder's from, because they've separated on the investigation, divide and conquer. They're there for one day, ideally. And it doesn't feel like some contrivance from the writer to get them apart. It feels like something that would genuinely happen within the case.
Yeah. And where, with regards to where the episode goes, it's not one of them cases where they've just given Scully some BS assignment to get her out of the way. What she does actually becomes quite crucial to everything that's going on. Like she solves the case, essentially.
Yeah,
she's the one who solves it. Mulder's just locked in a car with this guy trying to keep him alive, but it's Scully that solves the case. The police cars pull back and Crump remains agitated. Then he gets worked up when Mulder pulls up in traffic. Mulder gets moving, nearly knocking cars off the road. figuring out that figuring out the speed connection. Basically, as long as we're moving, Crump seems to be okay. He tells Crump they're going to need to do something before the roadblock, because he's fully aware that look, there's going to be a roadblock. We've had police choppers, we've had cars. There's going to be a roadblock. We see the roadblock, and again, it's like this is one of them things where once again we see the show is it seems to have a lot more at its disposal. It seems to be putting a lot more money into it. It's like, so we get a scene of the actual roadblock, and it's literally 10 seconds long. It's literally one shot where the camera pans from a bit of the roadblock, it widens out, and as it pans over, it comes to an officer, and they've all got the guns and they're waiting, and they hear something on the radio that basically says that Mulder has changed direction, so they're not heading to the roadblock anymore. And one of the officers is like, "What did he say?" And it's literally like they didn't need to set up that, really.
Yeah.
But you know, they've put some money on screen for what is essentially a 10-second clip in which they've got this full-on roadblock all set up. Just attention to detail.
What I will mention here is this is one of those episodes where if you stand back and look at it, the locations are really limited. Inside a car, get to a gas station, we've got in the autopsy room, and it's cut really quickly. There's not really sequences where we linger on certain areas for too long, and it feels really quick all the way through it. When you break it down, there's like sequences are really kind of short and it's punchy and it just kind of moves back and forward and always adding stuff to the episode, which is great.
Yeah, it's very well paced. The pacing is just like it never lets up. It's just I credit Gilligan to that. It's just such an amazing writer. So the sheriff informs Scully that Mulder has gone in a different direction, and Scully theorizes that Mulder steered them away from the roadblock on purpose. Assistant Director Kirsch calls Scully, and his tone is not good. He's not pleased at all.
Just don't like this guy.
No, absolute douchebag. Douchebag. Like he literally says that at this point, Agent Scully, I'm looking forward to seeing Mulder alive more than you are. And it's because he wants to chew him out. He wants to penalize him, to punish him. So
it's all ominous and kind of, it just feels like he's like, and he's a couple of times in this episode, and every time we see him, it's in an almost like darkened room, you know, as if he's just sitting there like seething in anger, plotting.
Yeah. It's, do not like this guy. So Scully also, she asks, what if the new victim read the meter at Vicky Crump's place? Because like whilst all this has been going on, we've been informed that there's been another victim found, basically. So Scully's like, hang on a minute, she worked for this particular company. What if the new victim read the meter at Vicky Crump's place? So maybe she passed something on there. So that gives them a bit of a connection there. So Mr. Crump starts bashing his head against the window until Mulder heads west. So we get this. It's a bit of a longer scene. It starts with Mulder basically calling him Crump. You know, he wants a bit of information for him. It's like, hey, Crump, and he's like, that's Mr. Crump. And it feels like such an inane detail. Yeah, but it's actually really great writing because it keys you into this guy in quite a big way. This is a man who wants to retain his dignity. Now he has a few cracks at Mulder throughout the episode about his Jewish name, and he's clearly, you know, he's a working man. He's not maybe not of the highest intellect, but I certainly wouldn't say he was stupid. You know, a bit redneckish, but and what I think is like the theme of the episode really is that actually, no matter what this guy is, he's still a human being, and he still deserves to be treated with dignity. And especially once we learn why what's happening to him is happening to him, it does kind of feed into that notion that actually, no, we all deserve to be treated with dignity and be told the truth and be spoken to in a respectful manner. And so him just getting hung up on this, look, not Crump, Mr. Crump, is it sounds like a bit of a redundant detail, but it's really not. So Scully leads a bunch of hazmats to Crump's residence, and they see a dog going absolutely nuts. And when they try to restrain it to get a blood sample, its head explodes. If I have one criticism of this episode, and this is a minor criticism, the only criticism I have, it's that the thing with the dog is convenient timing. I mean, or it doesn't play out quite the same way as the human stuff does, because like with Crump and his missus, it seems to be that they have to keep moving, but they have to keep heading west as well. Whereas with the dog, it's kind of tied to this chain. So it's going that way, then it's going that way. It's going that way, it's going that way. It doesn't feel like it's operating by the same rules that they've kind of put into place. I mean, the movement's there. It's still moving about. It doesn't stop moving, but there's only so far it can go. So I feel like that they're kind of having to slightly bend the rules a little bit there or gloss over them just in order for this scene to play out. But
I wouldn't get hung up on it.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. It's a very minor criticism. The dog's doing laps, basically. It's keeping moving. And I think that's the only thing that's stopping it from exploding. As evidenced by the...
As soon as they hold it down and stop it from moving.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. As evidenced by the fact that its head explodes once they pin it down. But I think if you want to be pedantic, you could get hung up on that moment. But like, that's literally me looking for the one criticism that I would have of what I personally think is really a perfect episode. Mulder quizzes Crump, gets him to talk him through the day that led to his wife's death. Mulder says sorry, but Crump blames him and the government, then goes a little conspiracy theory mad before Mulder informs him that they're running low on fuel. Really great scene.
There's a line in here that I absolutely love, and it's just an inconsequential. I don't know why I like it as much as I do. Mulder's questioning him about what's happening with him, and he just says, "What am I, Quincy?" And it's like such a like, even at that point, Quincy had been off TVs for about 20 years, and the fact that
it's a generational thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that his generation at that point would have known it.
Yeah, it just seems silly, and then it's like that's where there's lots of like Jew FBI and stuff like that, and things thrown in as well.
Yeah, there's just some really good dialogue between them, and it just, a lot of it feels like throwaway lines, but again, it's not. It's really character building, and what it's actually doing is it's giving you sympathy for Crump. It's making you sympathize with this guy, and certainly by the end of this episode, this is one of the most sympathetic guest characters we've had on the show. Especially considering where he ends up. But two, it's also building that level of trust and, dare I say, friendship between Mulder and Crump. Like, it almost in a Midnight Run kind of way, like a buddy cop kind of. You've got cop and criminal who they're kind of on opposite sides, but actually when you get to the heart of it, they're both just two men who want to be treated with respect, treated with dignity, and in the end, Mulder does all that he can to try and help this man. And I do love these bits of dialogue that kind of show you that, okay, Crump's got his prejudices. There's a thing he says about the Jews, and he's like, "Oh, it's like you can't help who you're born to," and it's just like, oh man. It's just showing your prejudice, but like completely.
You may as well just say you're a good one.
Yeah, you're one of the good ones. Yeah, it's a total lack of self-awareness. That's the thing. It's like when people say, "I'm not racist," but and then go on to give a whole tirade of racist comments. But but all that stuff kind of just shows you that this guy's human. He's got faults. He's got failings, but ultimately, he still deserves dignity. He still wants to be treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
So it's
But it's like you say that conversation's hilarious. Like, I mean, you break it down to like, the whole, like, I'm really sorry about the comments. I didn't mean it. You can't help it. Like, you've still got the same issue.
Yeah, it's one of them half-assed apologies that actually doesn't get.
Yeah,
You're not really apologizing. Yeah. You're not apologizing for what you said. You're apologizing for accusing of being like all the other ones. Great stuff. Great writing.
Yeah.
Scully notices a light across from Crump's residence.
Yeah.
And it turns out Crump's got a neighbor, so they go to check it out. They find a dead bird in a cage, and the house looks a bit of a mess. It looks like kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre style vibe.
Do you know what this sequence reminded me of, Brian? Straight away.
What?
The house in the first episode. You know how they walk in and then it's just like the person sitting on the couch and the chest's all burst open?
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah. A lot dirtier. I feel like that. The house in the first episode of the season was a lot cleaner and fresh. And
it was a lot cleaner.
New build.
Yeah. This one is a little bit like home.
Yeah, that's maybe too much like home to some degree. But they find a lady in there who's very much alive, who freaks out because she's deaf. So she doesn't know Scully's there until she sees the torchlight flash across her, and she's like, "Oh!" But it kind of, it's freaky because she's just sat there in the dark watching TV by herself,
which to be honest, like quite a lot of people do that.
Especially these days.
When somebody turns up in a hazmat suit with lights going, like, "You're okay."
So Mulder swaps cars at a gas station in a rather humorous fashion. Like, such a great sequence because it really, like, it's really tense. It's one of them sequences where it's like, it's the part of the film where, oh no, how they're going to manage this? They've got to swap fuel. What's going to happen? And the gas station clerk's being a total ass. Mulder's like, "Put on pump number 3," and he's like, "You gotta pay before you pump, dude." So what did he do? He just steals somebody else's car, shuffles Crump in there, and whisks off with the car.
That is a real world situation there. Like, somebody is in an emergency and needs it, but they're coming across as aggressive, and the person who doesn't know the situation is just pure like, "If you're going to be like that, I'm going to be a dick too." And
like if you see it, you see it from the gas station's clerk. That's like, if you're that guy and you're with those other two guys and you're just chatting, you're having a bit of a laugh, and some douchebag turns up, gets out, and it's like, "Come on, man, put on number 3." Then you would literally be like, "Screw this guy. Who does he think he is?" But we do that all the time, don't we? We all do it. We make judgments on other people based on their erratic behavior, not understanding that they're probably having the worst day of their life. And we've had that happen to us where we've had really crappy days and people don't seem to understand. So it's a really great observation, really good scene. Scully takes her hazmat suit off because she realizes, or she theorizes, that she doesn't think it's viral. She thinks it's something to do with sound. There's a specific sound that is causing this. And she deduces that from the fact that the death lady seems okay, so she doesn't seem to be affected. She thinks they're looking for a sound, not a virus. The sheriff calls her with a note from Mulder. She says, "Listen to him and do what he says." As the line gets worse, she comes across dead birds next to a manhole cover that reads "Government property, private." Suddenly it all comes into view. So, had to be the government, didn't it? It's always the government.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so so that's when Crump says, the Jew stuff, man. No offense, man can't help who he's born to. And I laughed my ass off at that line. When he said that line, I just like, it just sounds like a genuine apology. The Jew stuff, man. No offense. Man can't help who he's born to. Oh, great stuff.
Good.
He asks Mulder why he's helping him before theorizing that he might not actually be helping him. But then he simply makes the point that to take away a man's dignity ain't no way to treat a man. And it's at that point that they cross the border into California, which, anyone who knows the slightest little bit about geography will realize that once you hit California, you have very little west left to travel in.
Yeah. Well, in fact, they say that line at it. There's not much west left, which is
yeah.
So which is a good line.
Yeah. So but again, just really great scene. It just gives you so much about who Crump is as a person.
And there's also those little moments where it's like, at the start he's like demanding things, but at this point he's very resigned and controlled, and he's like, "Can you go a little faster, please, Mr. Mulder? Like, just a little bit more."
It's that respect. It's like just this whole thing here where he's kind of he asks Mulder why he's helping him. So he's come to the conclusion Mulder's helping him. But the moment he talks that out and his brain starts turning, starts thinking, he suddenly has to face the possibility that, oh, hang on, is he helping me? Or does he need to do this to get me somewhere, because this is all part of some government experiment? And he never comes to the conclusion that that is the case, but he has to be open to the possibility that might be the case. So you see just the way these two men are identifying with each other, learning to trust each other, but still have some doubts. And it is a relationship. It's a relationship that is building between these two men that kind of makes you care about Crump, because the more that Mulder cares about Crump, the more we begin to care about Crump.
Yeah.
So we go to Horizon View Naval Research Station, where they are. So Scully goes there. She asks them about basically the thing she found, and this guy is so cagey, so like secretive. But basically, we know that they've done something called a ground conduction radio test. And apparently they had when they did the test a few days ago, they had a surge. There was a bit of a malfunction. They had a surge, but they've now got it under control. Nothing to worry about. On your way, kind of thing. And the moment Scully starts to try and dig deeper, this guy's just shuts her down. It's like, nah, off you go.
Which is kind of funny, because initially in this sequence, like Scully goes up to him and the guy's like, "Oh, you're from about the thing," and she's like, "Yeah," and then he's like, "Yeah." So anyway, classified and classified.
So we get two officers on bikes who rock up to the car to pass Mulder a phone, because the previous phone they had, Crump chucked it out of the window. Scully asks if he's okay, and Mulder jokingly says he's got terminal phone withdrawal, which is quite amusing, because the two of these, Mulder and Scully always have the phones on them. They're always phoning each other. Mulder, it's me. Scully, it's me. So Scully tells him about extremely low frequency transmissions, which is ELF waves, basically ELF waves, extremely low frequency transmissions. So she has this theory that that's what's caused. It's a condition in Crump's ear that means he's susceptible to particular sounds, which, if lingered on, have the horrible effect of blowing your head up. So Mulder tells Crump what the plan is, a plan we don't really hear, but we can kind of surmise as to what's going on. Crump asks to go faster, and that's when, like you were saying, he gets kind of nice about it. He's like, and he's calling him Mr. Mulder, which is a shame, because that's literally the last we see of him. Because on the next scene, Scully waits with a syringe, which.
Can we just go back to the car sequence a little? Like, I love this practical conversation of, like, Mulder tells him everything he needs to know. You're right. This is what's happening. This is the solution we have for you. And they kind of talk it through. Like, you're going to have to get a needle put in your ear. There'll be no anesthetic. You're going to be deaf.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'll still be alive. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, is resigned. He's like, okay, I believe everything you've just told me. It feels like the truth. Yeah, okay. let's do this.
Yeah. Like Mulder as well says, like, I don't know if that was in this scene or whether it was in a prior one, but he talks about how, look, keeping you alive right now is the only chance we have to get back at the government, to put them on trial, essentially, to bring this to light. And that almost kind of spurs Crump on. It's like he suddenly has a mission to stay alive as a result of that. But again, it just also shows that, one, Mulder genuinely cares about this guy, and two, Crump has genuinely grown to trust Mulder. So it's just a really great job of building up this relationship between these two men who only met like hours ago,
I think.
Great writing. So Scully waits with the syringe, but when Mulder rocks up in the car, he just carries on driving, gets to the cliff top, steps out of the car and goes and takes a breather because, as it turns out, Crump is already dead, which is such a bitter pill. Like, because I like this guy. By the time we get to the end, I really like this guy. I want to see him say.
But would it have been as impactful if?
Oh no.
Like you want him to live, but it's almost better for the episode if he dies. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it has a bigger impact.
Yeah, it's really bitter, and there have been episodes before where, the guest character, they've built him up and then they kill him off at the end, and you kind of like, yeah, okay. Well, I feel like they do such a good job here of building this guy up and creating this relationship between him and Mulder that when he croaks it is a really bitter pill. It's like, damn, man.
It's disappointing. It's a bitter end to the episode, and it's a great finale. We don't need any more sequences after that.
No, we don't need any more scenes, do we? That's can end there.
But
they're going to give us one anyway, and it's assistant director Kirsch totting up the bill for everything that Mulder has spent on this.
It's so funny.
Mulder's just like, bill me. I love Mulder's absolute reckless kind of, I don't give two sweet F's about this right now. He's not playing ball at all. He's literally says to Kirsch, fire me.
Yeah.
He won't resign, but
he's tallying up the bill, and he's like, compensation because you stole a guy's car, $500. And I'm like, is that all? That's like $500.
Yeah.
Like you're moaning about it. Jeez,
I bet you spend more than that on some business meetings that you put on
his coffee,
the government accounts and stuff. Yeah. So, basically, he's just an absolute douchebag. His disdain is palpable. Mulder's disdain towards him is palpable. A.D. Kirsch, just a grade A prick. And he has a last word with Scully because Mulder's already left. He ain't hanging around. He's like, I got no time for this prick. Scully she tries to speak up for Mulder, but Kirsch is like, nope, you're just as bad as he is. Quite frankly, I'd rather see you both go. And she just walks away, and it's just like big pile of manure. And that's it. End of the episode. Final thoughts.
Do you want to wrap us up on this one, Brian?
Yeah, I'll wrap us up. I loved this episode. One of my all-time favorite movies, let alone action movies, is Speed. I rather controversial choice, but when I did my top 100 movies video over on my channel, I had Die Hard literally like 1 or 2 spots just behind Speed. A lot of people think I'm crazy for that, but I love them both equally. Look, Die Hard and Speed for me are equal, but if I'm absolutely called on it, I'm slightly more of a Speed guy. I'm sorry, I just am. Call me crazy. Many people have. That's fine. Whatever.
There's no need to apologize. You can't choose who you're born to.
I've made worse hot takes than that. I can tell you. And anyone who wants to argue that Speed is not a 5-star action film is smoking crack, because it's great. But I love Speed.
The problem is Die Hard's a 6-star action film.
I love Speed, and I think this episode just, again, so many of the best episodes of this show are the ones where they take a movie that everybody knows and loves, absolute classic, and they just put their little X-Files spin on it. There's a bomb in the car. It's going to explode if you go below this speed, if you don't keep heading west, except the bomb isn't a bomb. It's a person. That's the spin. Now roll with it. And they do such an amazing job. Vince Gilligan, flipping fantastic script. The character work in this is immense. He gives as much for Scully to do as Mulder. It's evenly matched. I literally can't fault it. Like that one little minor quibble I had before with the dog was me stretching just to find something to find. But honestly, it's a nothing. It's a nothing criticism. I think this is an absolutely banging start to the season. I know we had the beginning that felt more like it was just kind of bring us up to speed so we could get on with the series. This feels like the first proper episode of the series, and it's an absolute banger. 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, it's really nice to see Bryan Cranston, and like I don't know if it's because he's such a big actor now, and you can get the Vince Gilligan connection as well. But like, I'm kind of hoping to see more like bigger cameos or bigger guest stars as the series goes on. But yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. It's a great episode. It moves really quickly. I think that a lot of it's down to the editing, and it's still punctuated with these moments of levity, which kind of ease some of the suspense and tension a little bit through it as well. Yeah, 5 out of 5. So tell me a little bit about Triangle, episode 3.
Right. I think this is going to be another 5-star episode. If I recall correctly, this was 2 bangers straight after each other. So this is an episode where Mulder gets lost in the Bermuda Triangle, and Scully. So Scully's back at home trying to figure everything out, trying to save him. And he's busy on an adventure in the Bermuda Triangle where basically he goes back in time. He's on board a ship that's been taken over by Nazis, and all the people that are on the ship, all these characters are played by people, regulars in the series. So you've got Cancerman as like a Nazi kind of sergeant. You've got Spender in there as a Nazi grunt. You got
kind of Peter Pan effect almost.
Kind of thing. So you got so it's like it's the same, but it's different, and it's like but it's I remember it just being a really great comedic, but also just cleverly written episode.
I mean, it does sound rather ridiculous, but fun.
Yeah, so. yeah. It's one of them episodes where if somebody explains like the concept of, say, this episode to me, and then explains the concept of like an episode that I didn't necessarily like all that much, like Darkness Falls, explain that to me. Darkness Falls would be the one that I would want to see.
Yeah.
But when you watch the 2 episodes, it's like, oh no, Triangle is the one that is clearly far and away the better episode. As far as I'm concerned, I know plenty of people would disagree. Darkness Falls seems to be a well-loved episode. Never quite understood why, but whatever. But yeah, Triangle, I think we're going to love it. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Oh, fantastic. So everybody out there, thank you for joining us as we talked about Drive. Remember to join us next week when we discuss Triangle and its strange yet captivating sounding story. And if you have the chance, why don't you rate us or like us on YouTube or podcasting service that you download us from? It would really help people discover the channel, which we'd really appreciate. And we'll see you next time for Triangle.